Lifeboat Live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck.
Hey, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville. And on the other side of the glass, as always, the other partner, Captain Mark Wages. Hope you are having a good day, people. Mine has been pretty good. I've had a very good day. But so first, let's go over all of the things that before we get into the swing of it. I got a couple of things we need to talk about. First, so yesterday, I just want to clear up something that I said because I think it may have been misconstrued. I said without sobriety, there's no God. People, I'm referring to me. And this is, it's not a religious channel, but I think it's important that I reiterate and maybe explain this a little bit better. I don't think God ever leaves you. I really don't. And that wasn't my point. My point is that for me, heroin was my God. If it's the first thing that I think about when I wake up in the morning, if it's the last thing I think about before I go to bed, and if it's where 80% of my time and 100% of my money gets spent, then it's taken over, that aspect of my life. The part of my life that has any kind of spiritual nature is gone. And what I have in exchange is, my treating the substance itself very much like a God. And that's what I was referring to. So I'm not, I'm not saying that, God leaves you or that, you can't be praying or any of those things. What I'm saying is that for me, very simply put, heroin became God, plain and simple. So that's where I was going with that. So this subject today, I'll tell you the reason for it. Yesterday was a fun video, and I got a lot of really cool feedback. A lot of you really dug, for lack of a better way to put it, it was kind of a rah-rah session. And that's, there's it not by design, but you talk about some things and you get excited about it. And that was one of those kind of videos. And because of that, a lot of you reached out and commented on it, which I appreciate. I love it when I get feedback on the videos. That said, 4 of you, and you know who you are, 4 of you said, you know what, that's all great, but I just can't seem to get motivated. I can't seem to get motivated for, the getting to that next stage. We talk about success and we talk about all of the things that come with sobriety and how it is a template for the rest of your life. Because once you prove that you can do this, well, then obviously, we then believe that we can do whatever's next on the agenda. Well, a lot of you reached out and said, the problem is just getting motivated in any way. So today we're going to talk about motivation. And this is a fun subject, and it's got the potential for rah-rah. So if it's back to back, I apologize. But it is one of those things that you can really sort of get wrapped up in if you think about it. Um, Now, the motivation for getting sober, right? This should be, almost fall into the duh category, right? Obviously, obviously, the reasons for getting sober jump out and slap you in the face. But as we were talking about yesterday, sobriety is the starting blocks. Getting sober is the beginning of the rest of your life. The old cliche, the first day of the rest of your life. Well, I assure you, the first day of the rest of your life starts the day that you get sober. Plain and simple. That is when it starts. And when you start to talk about trying to get motivated to live that best life, there's a lot of unpacking that we can do on this. And a lot of it is cool because it's going to be, there's going to be some nuts and bolts kind of stuff in there as well, which is always cool. Anytime you can start to take the things that we talk about and implement them, like, oh, this makes sense. The first thing I want to say, and I think that this ought to jump out at everybody, if this doesn't make sense to you, sit and ponder it a little bit more, right? Because this is one of those things that the more you think about, the more that it makes sense. But we as human beings are a very, very odd, very, very odd creature. And one of the things that is, one of the things that really makes us very unique is we're really much better suited to working toward a goal than we are to achieving the goal. And this is something that you see all the time. You see it with people who run marathons, or people that run triathlons, or people that want a PhD, right? All of these things where you set this thing up in front of you. And when it's said and done, a lot of times there's a huge letdown. We are much better built to working toward a goal than we are achieving that goal. And this, the in the most basic form, we see this with pregnant women, right? You've all heard of postpartum depression. The act of being pregnant and carrying a baby to term is such a huge thing, and you're preparing for this every day, and it's there, and it's such a part of exactly what you are and what you live for at a minimum 9 months. A lot of times people plan for it, prior to getting pregnant, and for the longest time, you're working toward creating this life, and then it gets there, and it's this. Well, we do this in so many things in our life, and there is an element of this that happens in sobriety, right? How much of our lives do we spend saying, oh, you know what? It's just going to be so perfect. We talk about this all the time, right? It's going to be so perfect if I could just get sober. If I could manage to stop drinking, then this, and this are all going to happen. Or if I could just stop doing dope, this is going to be my future. And we build this thing up to be bigger than everything that could possibly be. Everything we ever wanted becomes tied to the act of getting sober. And then once we do, there's this letdown, right? Because number one, the goal is achieved. And number two, let's be really honest. Getting sober doesn't mean you're going to get every single thing you ever wanted. It's not going to happen. It doesn't work that way. What it does mean is you're going to get sober. What's that, Mark?
A lot of times, you're going to have to work harder. It really does. Yeah.
Amen. Amen. And boy, you know what? My bobble-headed partner just hit it out of the park. He went yard with that. Because when you're getting high, or you're, getting drunk, or whatever your drug of choice is, while you're in the process of living that life, the only goal we have is getting high. The only goal we have is maintaining the buzz. There's nothing else. So all of a sudden, when we achieve that, now all of the things that we kind of coasted through life on are now an issue, right? Now you actually have to start setting some realistic goals, and this means working a hell of a lot harder. This is something that we've never done in our lives for most of us, and even if you're, you've only been getting high 5 or 6 years, getting high is a symptom, right? It's not the real problem. More often than not, the problem is something that has been afflicting us since we were kids, and getting high was the biggest symptom of that problem. So I talk to people, they'll say, well, I've only been getting high for 6 or 7 years. I didn't really start partying until my, junior or senior year in college. However, you were living very much like an addict up to that point, if that makes sense, right? You weren't comfortable in your own skin. You were miserable. And, I get emails from people all the time that say, it makes sense to me because I'm not comfortable, but I don't understand the concept, right? Why is it that addicts are uncomfortable in their own skin? And I'll be honest with you. I think very often addicts tend to be really deep thinkers. And there's some science behind this, that very often people with drug addictions have very high IQs. And I think that they go hand in hand. I don't think doing dope makes you a genius. I think that very often a very overactive mind causes people to be uncomfortable in their own skin, right? We spend way more time thinking than other people. Have you ever met somebody and you just thought, boy, you know what? This guy's a dolt, right? Or this girl's got nothing on the ball, and they just seem to be the happiest people you ever met. The greatest example of this that I ever saw was in prison. Like, you would see people just sort of hop skipping away through their entire sentence, happier than a pig in mud to be doing whatever they're doing. I think that prison is so much harder on thinkers because we're sitting there and working through all of the things that we did wrong to put us there, right? And all of the things that we could be doing if we weren't there. Now, if you're nodding with me like my bobble-headed partner is, then I want you to think of addiction as a prison, right? It's the exact same phenomenon, right? You're trapped in your addiction saying, how did I get here? And boy, I could be so much more if I wasn't here. What's the difference between that and being incarcerated? Well, it's a prison of your own making, right? Granted, we have a disease, but we started down that road by making bad decisions. It is a disease of choice, right? So in order to get motivated, we have to realize and start to work through the fact that, what is it that's causing us to be uncomfortable in our own skin? And I think very often it's, that pain is caused by the realization that we're stupid. No disrespect to anybody, but the realization that we're screw ups. We're not reaching our full potential. We're not even close to our full potential. And every minute of any day, we are short-circuiting everything that would make us a better us, right? Everything that you could do to make you the best you that you could be, you're short-circuiting. And you're doing it with drugs, you're doing it with alcohol, you're doing it with all of the decisions that come with doing drugs or alcohol, right? Where money becomes secondary, right? You don't keep a budget, you don't do any of these things. And one of the real problems, I think, for those of us in addiction is that we have a very, very active conscience. I believe this. I believe that addicts have a really horrendously active conscience, and sometimes it's really difficult to live with that little voice in you gnawing at you all day, every day. It's like that little nonstop nag that just says you're coming up short. You're not good enough. You're a failure. And the best way to turn that voice off, until you realize that there's a better way to turn that voice off, the best way to turn off that voice is with drugs or alcohol. We can drug ourselves into a position where, that goes away. And, again, the more of a thinker you are, life is fragile as hell, right? In the best of worlds, if you got a job at 22 and by 26 you were a billionaire, guess what? The end of life is still rushing at you at breakneck speed. Whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're whatever, the fact that we are so aware of our own mortality is something that really sort of wrecks the mind of a lot of people. And for those of us who are addicted to drugs, this is something that really works us over. Just 1 second.
Adam's in here. Adam stopped by.
Oh, Adam, glad that you're here, my friend.
He made a really good comment. I'll put it back up there for a minute.
You know what? Please do. I lost the entire live chat. I don't know what's going on here. I blame Mark.
Okay, I'll take it.
The other option is blaming me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the I blame Mark.
Okay, so I'll read his comment here. It says, or you meet someone and ask how is this person on the street because they're so smart and personable.
You know what?
I mean,
what a great comment.
Yeah, it's
no, for real.
Yeah,
it's almost overwhelming, right? And the fact that we realize that, in a lot of ways we're just stupid in everything that we're doing. It's what drives addicts to be uncomfortable in their own skin, right? So you have to get over this if you're going to get sober. If this is something that you're going to be successful in doing, that's something that needs to be addressed. And there's a couple of different ways you could do that, right? You could go to and live in an ashram, or you could go and meditate in Tibet and do all of the things that a lot of people do to try to get into sync with who they are. Probably not super realistic if you're trying to get sober, right? So the other option is you're going to do everything within you can to get your act together, right? And how do you do that? Well, you do that by trying to structure your life in a way that you haven't in the past. And as I said earlier, we are never better than when we are working towards something. When we're working toward a goal, we are never better. Now, if you're sitting there saying, well, I have a hard time getting it going, the goal, obviously, for 90% of us here today, the goal is to get sober and stay sober. But that's just base camp, right? If that's all you're going to do, people, I promise you, not only is that going to be a letdown, you're going to end up getting high again. Seriously, because your life has to have more meaning than, well, I'm sober. That's never going to be enough. There's not enough fulfillment in, I've managed to get sober. It's a great building block. It's a huge stepping stone, but it's not going to be enough to make it, so that you're happy in your own skin, which is exactly what we need to do. So if you know, and I don't think anybody will argue this point, if you know that we're never happier than when we're working towards something, whoa, here we go. If you know that as people, we're always happier when we're working towards something, then you need to start setting goals for yourself, right? This is absolutely huge. This is going to be the motivation that keeps you sober. You have to start setting goals. And the way that this can be done really easily, because again, you get people who go, it's overwhelming. I sit down and I try to think about what I want to be. You know what? When you're trying to get sober, what you want to be is sober. Right? The bigger picture stuff really is going to be down the road. So how do you do it? Walk around your room. I'm not kidding. Start with the smallest stuff in the entire world, the things that you see every single day that are a part of your day-to-day. Walk around the room. Look at it. Say, what could I do in 25 minutes to make this room better? What could I do in 40 minutes to make this room better? Because it starts with the organization of your life. I promise you want to get motivated. Turn your room, turn your living condition into something better. Right? Start in the living room, knock it out. Don't have dishes in the sink. Look at small little things. And the beautiful thing about this is any goal that you set that's this big, that you accomplish, begins to snowball, taking you in the right direction. Hopefully this makes sense, right? The small attainable goals start to become massive things, and you can start to work towards something that is going to be a whole lot better and a whole lot bigger. Start fixing things. Fix 30 of them, then fix 50 of them, right? This is the kind of stuff that every single day you can actually see yourself progressing. If you are living in a pigsty, don't think life is going to go good for you. I promise it's not. Plain and simple. It is not just the fact that things are cluttered and you can't find what you're looking for. It is a reflection of who you are. I have given up. It's all right if I got 2 weeks of dishes in the sink. It's all right if I got trash bubbling over the top of the trash can onto the floor because I don't care about me anyway. Well, it's exactly what you're telling yourself. I promise. This is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You are going to grind this back into yourself. Did you do that when you were high? Good. Stop doing it when you're sober, right? Start with the stuff that you see every single day, the parts of the things that every single day are in your face, and make them better. You can have an immaculate house and not be well off. You can have an immaculate house and not quite be sober yet. But if you start doing that and you get everything that you look at in a good, solid position, organization will start, right? You will begin to actually move forward with your goals. I promise you, people. And if this seems stupid to you, give it a shot, right? Like with anything else, everything we talk about, if it seems odd, give it a shot. Watch what happens when you actually start to take stock in where you are in life, where you live, how you live. You start to get serious about changing that, and amazing things begin to happen. And I have watched this with so many people. I watched it in prison cells. It's amazing when you see somebody that takes a walk-in closet, right? We're talking about a room 6 feet wide, 12 feet deep, with a toilet, 2 beds, and a sink, and a couple of guys. But I watched so many people. At one point we had 120 guys attending meetings at a prison I was at. And you could watch these people, because this was something we beat to death, right? Go clean your cell. If your cell is a mess. And I didn't come up with this, people, smarter people than I did. But start with what you see every day. Start with what's in your face, because when that changes, so will your outlook, right? And begin to listen to your conscience. You know, we still talk about Socrates. You realize how long ago that cat lived?
Yeah. It's crazy,
Right?
isn't it? It's crazy.
It's bizarre, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
but the reason any of these people become such a part of the fabric of everything that we do in life, it's because they were larger than life in so many ways, right? When Socrates was asked why he thought he was more successful than other people, or what made him different than other people, you know what he said? Unlike other people, I listen to my conscience. When my conscience says to me, you're coming up short here, here, and here, well, then I fix it. If my conscience says you're cursing too much, I stop cursing. If my conscience says whatever, he actually spent time listening to that inner voice. Your inner voice is raging at you. Don't tell me it's not. You're a drug addict. You're an alcoholic. Our inner voice is more active than people who don't do drugs and alcohol, right? It's the reason you're uncomfortable in your own skin. I promise you, if your inner monologue shuts up, you're not going to be uncomfortable. But as addicts, there's that voice in the back of our head that's constantly needling at us, right? You're not good enough. You know, you're not smart enough. You're not this, you're not that. And most of what our conscience tells us when we're using is irrational. It's not that you're not good enough. You're high, right? You have accepted an existence based on shutting that voice in your head up with the use of alcohol or drugs. Huh? When we talk about being uncomfortable in our own skin, and people say, you know, I'm not sure, I know that I'm not comfortable, but I don't know what that means. What it means is your conscience is telling you the truth, and it's not fun to hear, right? I'm not a great dad. Well, that's a tough thing to hear, isn't it? I did for a long time, people. That was something that gnawed at me constantly in my head. You're not a good father. You know, you dropped the ball raising your kid. You know, you're not even in your daughter's life. Like, this was just a constant thing in the back of my head. This is why I say that one of my favorite, you know, pet excuses for getting high was my daughter not being in my life. Well, truth be told, my daughter wasn't in my life because I was a loser. I was doing dope and robbing banks. If you were the mother of my daughter, would you want me anywhere near her? Honestly, I mean, she does now, but as a heroin addicted bank robber, as much as I hated her, right, for not allowing me in the child's life, hindsight being 2020, probably a pretty good decision on her part.
Yeah, that's a parent. You know what I mean?
Right?
and
a good one.
Yeah, it's a really good parent. I want to read Charlie's comment. He very seldom drops comments here, and I think
Charlie Murphy?
Mullins.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a good comment. It says, fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. The choice is yours. So I mean,
absolutely,
he took that word fear and just wiped it right off the planet.
Yeah, it's an acronym. And which one are you going to use?
Exactly.
Right. Charlie, great comment. Yeah, and I call him Charlie Murphy because I know that Charlie Murphy. Charlie, I love you, brother. I'm so glad that you're here. I really am.
Hey, Joe.
You know, Charlie has been here for people. Charlie has been here since the 31st of July, 2020. And I don't think he's missed 6 shows since. Charlie, we love you, bud. We're really glad that you're here. Oh, I made a mistake yesterday. And that's important. Anytime you make a mistake, you really should acknowledge it, especially if you're like me and you only do it like 4 times a year. It's really essential that you
love it. Yeah. Love it.
So yesterday I was talking about the invention of the light bulb, right? 9,999 ways to not invent a light bulb. But I gave credit to the wrong inventor. And by the way, none of you called me on this.
I
should all be well, I said it was Bell, and Bell did a lot of great stuff, but he did not invent the light bulb. No, that was the phone. It was okay.
You losing it again?
I did, and the sad thing is I had it a few minutes
Thomas
ago.
Edison.
Thomas Alva Edison. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Gotcha, bro.
Really, I appreciate that.
We're good.
So, yeah, no, good. Well done. So the other thing we talked about yesterday is when you start trying to move forward, right? You get your place cleaned up. Your bed's made. There aren't dishes in the sink. Start to schedule your life. right? Come up with a schedule. And people hate this to no end. This is another one that people push back on. And you know why they push back on it? Because so often in our life, that means handcuffs, right? A schedule means that you're not living the life you want. I have to do this, this, and this. The thing to remember is you make the schedule. Joe Birdwell?
Yeah.
Oh, bud, good to see you. That's the Joe you were talking about?
Yeah.
Joe Birdwell, I'm glad that you're here, brother. Great videos, people. Go back and watch the videos we did with Joe Birdwell last year. Just amazing
Great
videos.
stuff.
So, yeah, no question, right? So when you make this list, you're the one that makes it, right? What do you love doing during the day? What's the one thing that makes you happier than anything? You know what? I like spending time with the dogs, right? Or taking my daughter to the park is just whatever that thing that to you is just the greatest thing in the world. Put it into your schedule every day. Making a schedule doesn't mean, well, I'm going to do something that sucks from 8 to 10, and then I'm going to do something I don't like from 10 to 4, and then from 4 to 9, I'm going to do something else I'm not fond of. That's not what I'm talking about. If I said, what is the best day you could possibly have, right? Tell me the best day you could possibly have. Now, obviously there's stuff you got to get done, right? You got to work, you got to do whatever, but what would be the best day? And if you said, well, I come home from work and I spend, 2 hours with the daughter, and then I do this, and then I do, make that your schedule, right? This is your schedule. Make it something that's going to make you happy so that moving forward is something that you don't feel like you're being handcuffed in the process of doing. And stop fighting me on it. Start writing this stuff down. Okay, we agreed. I don't think there's anybody that disagrees with me. As human beings, we are better suited to chasing a goal than we are to achieving a goal. How do you know what the goal is? Honestly, how do you know what the goal is? Like we said yesterday, keep moving the goalpost. Come up with what the goal is. And as you start getting close to that goal, or you start to achieve it, or you do achieve it, move the goalpost. You have to take it and take it up a notch continuously. As addicts, if we continue to set the goal higher, we're never going to get into that postpartum blues of, damn, I achieved this.
Right.
Keep making yourself better. And every single day, your job is to try to make you a better person than you are the day before. My question would be, and it's redundant at this point, but how are you going to know if you were better on Tuesday than you were on Monday? Seriously. Think about that. How are you going to know if on Thursday you did better than Wednesday, or on Friday you did better than Monday through Thursday? There's only one way, people.
Yep.
Right?
You got to document it.
Right?
You got to write it
Is
down.
It me?
You got to write it down.
You got to write it down. At
Have
the end
to.
of the day, you pull out the journal and you write in it.
Yep.
And you say, you know what? Today was a hell of a day. I went to work where I had no issues whatsoever. I got all of my stuff done. And my boss told me I'm killing it. He said, I'm so proud of you. If everybody here was like you, we'd have a much better business. And you're walking on cloud nine. Then you came home, you took your daughter to the park, right? Then you played video games or whatever you set aside for what was going to be fun. And at the end of that day, you just wrote down that today was awesome. Today was fantastic. On the flip side, Mark, what do you think? Is it me?
No, you're right on, dude. I mean, it just, honestly, there's really, you're saying it all. Really, there's not a whole lot more to say on that part of it. I mean, honestly, I don't really have a whole lot to add there, but, we have to be able to write the stuff down. Just bite the bullet, guys. I mean, just try it. That's all we're asking. You know what I mean? What can it hurt? You don't even have to write it on a big notepad or anything or a big notebook or anything. Just get a couple
pieces. It doesn't have to be 7 pages.
It could be one little paragraph or a couple sentences. It doesn't matter. I was
talking to someone on Saturday about this, Mark, and they said to me that journaling takes them about 4 minutes at the end of every day.
Yeah.
4 minutes. Now, granted, I spend the vast majority of my time playing with timepieces, but 4 minutes is nothing, right? You understand that in the scheme of things, right? You brush your teeth for 2 minutes. So you're going to double that up for something that is going to dramatically change what's going on in your life. You're going to keep score.
We're doing it for our health, right? So imagine if your doctor didn't write stuff down.
Good Lord.
I mean, I know it's a bit of a stretch there a little bit, but I mean, it's
not much.
It's essentially the same thing. you're talking
Not
about
much.
you know, your mental health is just as important as your physical. I think all of us here can agree to
and
that.
you could take that what you just did, you could take to any number of 500 examples. Honestly, if you went in to get your car worked on and the guy was just like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, drop it off. Tell me what's wrong with it again. Like, you'd be a little nervous if the cat didn't pull out a pen and a piece of paper as you were dropping your car off.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm having problems with yeah, no, we'll figure it out. What?
Yeah.
No, right? I want you to take notes. Like, I want this. How about if you were talking to an attorney?
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Any of these things, it ought to be really obvious. And nothing in the world. I mean, you guys are not happy when I tell you to make your bed. I catch crap for that. But nothing do you people buck on more than you need to actually keep track of your successes and failures. And there's no other way to do it.
Right.
I mean, there really isn't. You can get to the end of the day and go, you know what? I had a pretty good day. 2 days later, you're not going to remember whether or not it was a good day.
I can't remember what I had for breakfast. I mean, honestly, and that's just
most people can't.
Yeah, I know. And that's the whole point. You know, I really do. You keep it fresh in your mind. But we do have a good report here from Diary of a Madman. He says, I had an opportunity to buy 70 Xanax, 2 milligrams yesterday, and I chose sobriety again.
Good for you, brother.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to walk away from, guys. And that thing's in.
And as long as he's been doing it,
yeah.
If you remember from a couple of days ago, you know, this has been a lifelong struggle for Diary of a Madman. So, hey.
Exactly.
Right?
Get some ones.
My hat's off to you.
Let's get some ones in the chat for that one. That was pretty cool.
Absolutely. Can we get some ones up there?
And we do have Nile on the line whenever you're ready for a caller.
Why did Santa go to the liquor store? He was looking for holiday spirits. All right, 7th. Glad that you're here. Little a joke right on topic. You know what? There was a couple other things I want to go over, but I will not forget because, believe it or not, I got some stuff written down.
Okay.
And I would like to talk to Nile. So, Nile, if you're here, unmute yourself.
I think he's unmuted now. You there, Nile?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet.
I don't think I'm muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
We can hear.
We got you, man.
Yep. Good to see you.
Nile, you have been in our thoughts and prayers. I want you to know the day after you left, there were a lot of people in the comment section continually asking for thoughts and prayers for you and the family. How are you, brother?
I'm good, Tommy. I'm not here to kind of go over my father's death necessarily, in that, you know, give me lots of sympathy, and I'm here just to, you know, hear that. But I think obviously I learned something profound from my father's death because I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Not just because my father was unwell, which he wasn't. But he just died of old age. You know, he's 82, and he died. But I also knew that was kind of like a turning point in my life because, you know, the funerals are the times where we get to come face to face with the people that we have hurt most in our lives.
No question.
Yeah, yeah, that's a profound statement right there, Niall. Honestly, it really is. Not a lot of people can't see that whether in that situation, but it's definitely there.
And it's also a real test of where you're at in life too, because there's so much. I mean, that really is, you know, the emotions and everything in life are just really tossed in your face at times like that. You know, pretty tough.
Yes, and until I went through it, there was no way in hell that I could even imagine going through it, if that makes sense. I would have just ignored the funeral. I wouldn't have turned up because I haven't seen my son and daughter in so long.
Oh, Lord, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's something I didn't think about either, man. So that had to be, wow, man, you were dealing with a whole lot of stuff all at once. Wow.
Yeah. And there was people coming out of the woodwork, old friends from school. But my son and daughter, of course, was the big one.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it was a completely higher power thing because it wasn't down to me. Because that's the first thing I thought of. I says, my father has died, even though we'd spoken 2 days beforehand and we were arranging to meet in a week's time. He was going to come up here with his partner, but he just slipped away, and it was. I was very thankful that I had spent some time with him recently, because we had a difficult relationship. But I didn't go to pieces over it. I just knew what that meant. What that meant was that the gates were opening to. I always dreaded the day a funeral would arrive, because that's when the gates would open.
Right.
Yeah.
For better, for worse. And I thought to myself, I just have to get drunk. There is no way I can face this. This is too much. I
I would
cannot
imagine
Yeah.
face the death of my father, being there with my mother, having my
seeing
children
your
arrive,
kids. Oh,
my ex-wife, their friends, my old cousins, all this kind of all arriving. I just want to be out of my face. But I didn't. I got dressed. I arrived. My sister. I was kind of known because my sister arrived the next morning. She sent me a text, and then she
she
called
was the
me.
one that came and got you, right?
Yeah, she said about 7:30 in the morning. I was all dressed up, and I thought, well, I have to have some black to wear, which is not hard for me. I had plenty of black coats and black pants and black. So I just arrived and tied my hair back and just, got into the car, and we spoke about a 2-hour journey, and then he wanted to be cremated. So it's very quick in this country, within 2 days, So we spent that evening with my mother, and then the following morning was a short service, and then Linda arrived, and my ex-wife arrived with Sam and Shelley, who are now adults, 25 and 24.
Wow.
And one of them is my daughter's taller than I am. I'm 6'2". She must be 6'3". She's enormous, really tall. She's a dancer, a singer. My son is much shorter. I couldn't believe it. He's kind of blonde, and my daughter looks like me, except he's 2 inches taller. It was so bizarre. It was like I was taking to Alice in Wonderland.
Right.
And of course, you're at this funeral service where you're supposed to act a certain way. So I just kind of said, well, I'm just going to let it go. I just have to let it go. I had to let it go to some kind of power that was going to guide me through this, and I was still thinking to myself, I'm gonna buy on the way back with my sister. I'm gonna make an excuse and go into a store and put a small
Get a pint.
bottle of liquor, just something to shut down my throat, because it was too much.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it was,
I would imagine just the 2-hour ride with your sister. I mean, I know the relationship that you two have. I mean, that had every part of this Nile was just a journey. I mean, my Lord.
I mean, that's like a relapse right in your face, and you fended it off.
Wow.
It really is, man. I mean, there's no other way else to put that. And yeah, awesome. I'm glad.
I think
Yeah.
I think it brought me right back to my childhood. I felt ineffectual, and my sister actually said to Niall, will you say a few words about your dad, because you're very articulate, and you can. I can't do this. My sister said, you have to do this, and I was like, are you kidding me? I says, and we're getting on really well these days. There was a time myself and my sister weren't disconnected.
Right.
But she laughed and she said, "No, I know there's going to be a lot of people there you haven't seen in a long time. Are you? Yeah, right. Okay." I says, "Are you okay?" I says, "Yeah. I mean, I guess I have to be." And, that goes back to the motivation thing that you're saying. I guess I have to be.
Yeah.
In other words, I have to stand up to the plate in some way.
Well,
Right?
Yep.
she looked at you as a pillar of strength there, Niall. That's
so
one of the biggest compliments she probably could have gave you.
Yeah, I thought I was going to die of a heart attack before I even got to the funeral home. My mother was inconsolable. When my sister got a sense of the surroundings, when I saw my father in his coffin, when I saw my children arrive, and the last time I saw them when they were very
5 and
quite young.
6.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd seen them, my son, once when he was 12, but yeah, more or less. and they walked into the room in a really kind of enlightening way, with a smile towards me. I couldn't believe it, and I knew I had this stuff to say about my father, and I knew it had to tie in to my children in some way.
Uh-huh.
But that was all too much for me to take. So I just
Lord.
went up and said that I was thankful for being close to my father in the later years. I did say to the assembled audience, we were small in number, but it's still about 40 people, in this crematorium. Well, not in the crematorium, but in the
Right, I got you.
in the room outside.
Yeah.
And more people were standing outside because they didn't know. Some old school friends and people I hadn't seen in years, and people flew in from Germany and stuff like that. I said my father was a very kind man and a very intelligent man. I loved him the best way I could, and I think he did the same. And I'm sorry that he's gone, and I don't think it's really struck me that he's gone. But I'm glad that I'm here to say to everyone gathered here today, and maybe say to myself first of all that I can sincerely say to you all and to myself that I'm glad that he was in my life. And everyone kind of, they didn't clap or anything like that, but my father was not a nice man for the most part, but I think that was the best thing I could have said, and it was also his partner appreciated it. I just said he was a kind man, and I went on for another couple of minutes about how his love of poetry and his love of the land, his love of Ireland, and his love of, I didn't mention anything but his love of children because that would, bring myself into it automatically. But it kind of, I thought, I don't know, it's a kind of a blur, but it went down well. So I just sat down, and then, we went from there into another room, and someone said that, there's a small gathering for the immediate family. And so I was right beside my son and my daughter. My immediate reaction was to say, hey, how are you doing? Or give them a hug. Or I know that would have been totally inappropriate. But at the same time, I felt like I was at a meeting of the UN, United Nations or something.
Yeah.
We all had to stay a certain distance from each other. But I got nothing but good vibes from the two of them. I got nothing but good vibes. And that was.
Did you have an opportunity to talk to your kids any further?
Yes, yeah, it went on for a long time. But I won't bore your listeners how they just said it's okay. They said okay. Yeah, I'm glad what you said about your dad. We haven't seen them either. And then I just started to talk about my daughter's career in theatre. My son is involved in film, and they're extraordinary people, and but I didn't feel that sense, artists too. Huh. I didn't feel a sense of shame around them. They kind of, I don't know, they propped me up during that time, which is ironic.
I was going to say that's kind of what it sounded like to me, like they were trying to actually be there for you. That's what it sounded like.
You know what, Nile? The vast majority of people on the lifeboat have been through, I think, 3 or 4 interviews, right? That we've done together in a couple of shows, and everybody knows this story. Like I remember you saying on so many different occasions that you just don't know how you could possibly break the ice to ever, make contact with them again. So I mean, I know that this is a really tough, thing to endure, but wow, what a blessing. I mean, please tell me that this the beginning of great things, right? You're going to stay in touch.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The blessing is that, without making the story too long, but the blessing
knock yourself out. We got time.
Is that they kind of made it easy for me. I think they knew how much I'd been suffering.
Yeah.
In their heart and soul,
You're still
I
their
expected,
you're still their dad, Niall.
yeah,
You know.
my ego expected them to come at me all guns blazing. Oh, you bastard! You did this. You did that. Yeah, but it was completely the opposite. It's more like we did get a chance to kind of say, well, I got a chance to say, well, is there anything that you want me to talk to you about? You know, is there anything that you feel that is unanswered? Or no, it's okay. It's okay. We know who you are. We know where you are. We know what you've been doing. We've always known. And you know what? The hairs on my arm stood up when I heard that
Sure. Right.
from my
Yeah.
daughter. We've always known. We've always known.
Keeping track of you, man, because they cared.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the strange thing is, my mother, who I'm very close with, and my uncle, never told me that. They were like, no, they're doing their own thing. Do they know where I live? They might. I'm not sure. You know, this is the story I used to get,
Right.
which is it's not true. It says we know we've been following you on Facebook. We know about your art career. We know that we know what you're into. We know some of the people that we've been talking to. We haven't spoken to them, but we've been following you. And it was kind of like a really, really overwhelming experience. And at that stage, the thoughts of going for to get a quick drink somewhere was gone. It was evaporated. You know, it was like the ice was broken. In some ways, I felt like I had it easy. You know, I was so prepared all these years to like fall on my knees to beg their forgiveness. It's something really embarrassing to happen, like one of them would slap me across the face or ignore me, or it wasn't like that at all. It was like an unspoken kind of acceptance that some bad stuff went down, but the forgiveness was always there, you know, and I can take no credit for that. They're just two very mature young people.
That's
You know, I remember really distinctly talking with you about this and saying, you know, just give it a shot, reach out to him, you know. And I remember you saying there's just no way. And I remember this was really something that that you struggled with. What a blessing, Nile. My Lord, what a blessing.
I think you talked about it in one of your interviews a little bit too.
Multiple,
Yeah,
in multiple interviews,
multiple times. I think it's something that came up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sad part about it, I suppose, is that, and this will tie into your subject tonight as well, is that we have to lose something to gain something. The death of my father was a kind of like that stepping stone towards a relationship, a future relationship with my children. You were asking Tommy a few minutes ago, did we make plans? No, because it wasn't like, hey, we're back talking again. Hey, let's be friends. You know,
Right.
it was just like an unspoken acceptance. We went out for dinner and we talked, and it was all very comfortable. But it was the death of my father,
Right.
and it was just I was just so acutely aware of the circumstances, and the I'm going to sound a bit like I'm away with the fairies now at the moment, but the spiritual aspect of it was not lost on me. It was too overwhelming for me to take. I couldn't really mourn my father or accept my children, if that makes any sense. It was just I had to glide between the two. I had to glide between mourning for my father and accepting my children back in my life once again.
Well, it's kind of like your dad gave you a fainting gift as he on his way out. You know.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I wanted to say that is that when we talk about sobriety, I think that was the ultimate challenge, by the way, of sobriety. Right. First of all, right, if you can do that, you can do anything. And on that sister, when my sister took me back for the funeral, I wanted to drink so bad I would have done anything for a drink, you know.
Yeah.
I would have absolutely done anything for a drink. Um, but I didn't want to because I knew that wasn't the solution. It was more or less going to destroy everything that's left. So I feel very sad now about my father's death. It's probably beginning to hit me now emotionally. Um, Sam and Shelley are like not exactly back in my life, but they kind of always knew I was never gone. I just didn't know that I was never gone, and
Right.
so it was a fantastic experience. So sometimes addicts need to remind themselves they always think that everyone else in their life is just getting on with things, and whatever the addict is going through is kind of particular to the addict, and everyone else is doing fine without them. But what I've learned is that no, people are not stupid. They keep an eye on you, even though you don't know, and it's something I learned. I'm sorry, I probably not explained this very well because the emotions are kind of catching up with me a little bit, but I think you get the gist of
What a blessing.
Yes.
what I spoke
Yes.
about.
Yes. You were, yeah, I mean, I understood exactly what you were saying. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
So did I.
It's-
No question.
Yeah.
And
I'm
you know, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm happy for you a little bit there, man. Just to be honest, not that you lost your dad. Obviously, that's a horrible thing, but to see how you handled this, and I bet if you look back 15 years ago, you probably wouldn't have handled it like this. And
No,
that's
I would have.
that's
I would have. I would have turned up drunk and insisted that everyone,
yeah,
sits in certain places, and I would have insisted on, but it was overwhelming, and it still is because my some of my best friends come out of the woodwork.
right,
Some of the guys I was active with who are now sober. I didn't realize, and they arrived. How did you hear about this? I was blown away through Facebook. How did I not hear about this?
yeah,
So there was some confusion. So, no, you've been out of the loop for a long time, which I have. I've been
right,
out of the
Sure.
loop. I've been living on the periphery, and I haven't been fed the information that maybe I should have been fed. But that's neither here nor there. The fact that people tend to in that experience they just arrive. People never leave. People never leave. So it's like you were talking, Tommy. If you look at yourself, you want motivation to be sober. That would be my motivation to say that people actually never leave. They never totally leave you. Uh, so if you're like looking in the mirror and you say, "Oh, I'm a waste of space. I've destroyed everything in my life. I walked out on my children. I abandoned my marriage. I'm the a loser. I'm this. I'm not worth anything." Um, what we're actually doing is not giving other people the credit they deserve. And they say, yeah, he's all those things, but he's
Right.
also this, but he's also
Exactly.
this,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
And I guarantee you most people expected me to turn up drunk that day, but, I had to I had to do so much that day. So it was, I don't know, I hope that people who are still active can take some encouragement from knowing I would never have done this if I was still drinking. I would never have been able to go through that day if I was still drinking. It would have been a complete and utter disaster.
Can you
So,
imagine can you imagine what it would have done to the opportunity for you with your kids? I mean,
Hmm.
what a blessing that you were there and you were sober. I remember when the last time that there was a situation where you were all at the hospital and everyone was looking to you to be the strength in it. And I remember the shock basically that put you through the last time, and this one had to be that times five.
Times right. And I've always been good at this. I'm like you, Tommy. I'm a natural person when it comes to like skills in this area. But in this case, my powers on that day were not my own.
Yeah.
They were from some other realm. So it was, it's very difficult to talk about my father's death because that my mourning for him will probably come down the road. But I'm not sure what the lesson is about tonight's show. But I think there is a huge amount that addicts forget, and a huge amount that they think that other people are ignoring them because they're a waste of space. And addicts tend to get very self-absorbed about their own illness, and we just assume that everyone else is getting on with their lives and we're just better off dead, you know, which is not what I've learned from my father's death is that that is not the case. And I know, even though I haven't made plans, to meet up with my children, I know now that they want me in their lives.
That's
You
awesome.
know,
That's so awesome. I mean, I know that this is a hard thing to have to go through at that time, but to be able to find something like that in such a hard situation, that is a true blessing. And I think you hit it right on the head when you said it was a little bit spiritual, if not all spiritual. That is something that I wish everybody could at least experience that one time in their life, but I think most people do. They just don't realize that's what's actually going on. And that's just
yeah.
my belief, right? I mean, I'm not trying to say everybody needs to believe like I do, but I do think that we all see that, and
And to repeat, Mark, sorry to interrupt you, but just to repeat for the benefit of the audience, I would not have been able to do any of that unless I was sober.
yep,
I would not have had the skills, the spiritual setup. Nothing would have gone the way it did unless I was prepared, even though I felt inside that I was completely unprepared. I was prepared. But if I had been still using or drinking, I would have been a complete and utter waste of space.
yep. And I think
So
that's what Tommy was saying earlier. That's why he said he has to have sobriety before he can have God. I mean, that's just what that kind of it's the same thing. And I think
Right.
I think you articulated it in a little bit different of a way there, but I think that might have helped a lot of people understand what Tommy was saying. I really do.
God's
I hope so.
always there. I don't think that we tend to not focus on it, we not see it, but it definitely sounds like whatever anyone's belief is, that there was a power greater than yourself helping you out over the course of this ordeal, and what a blessing, Nile. And I'm so glad that you called in. I really am.
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm sorry if I took over a lot of the show.
No,
knock that
God,
off.
dude, don't
Um,
you know better than that, man?
Right? Knock it off.
I do think it's connected though with for anybody who's struggling with addiction. Life is no matter how addiction is very good at telling us that we're useless,
Absolutely.
horrible.
Right?
But when we're confronted face to face with or let me put it another way, if we're confronted with the unendurable, with something we can't endure, but we have to go through it. If we go through it sober and we try and we just do it, amazing things will happen,
I agree.
And
I agree.
so, a case in point, my relationship with my children, I've no doubt in time it will develop further. But this step over that line was absolutely enormous, and the death of my father is enormous as well, so sometimes addiction, we lose part of ourselves when we're addicted.
Yep.
First off, it's like a death,
Yeah,
so we spend our whole lives kind of mourning something, so getting back to the mirror analogy, we can look at ourselves in the mirror, but we have to climb through the barbed wire first. But it's worth it if you can do it. And if at the end of the day I drop dead 5 minutes from now, I'll have said, well, I did something worthwhile in my life. I tried. I was there. That's as simple as that. I was there.
And that's enough.
Beautiful.
It really is.
Yeah, no question, right?
Yep. Well, thanks
So
for
that's it.
thanks for calling, Niall. Thank you for sharing all that. You didn't have to do any of that,
problem.
and just
No problem.
thank you. Awesome.
You know
call,
me,
awesome
I
call.
could keep talking all night, but I better let you guys go.
All right,
Niall,
brother.
I'm so glad that I
Yeah.
am so glad that you called in, Niall. I really am. What a blessing, and
Yep.
what a blessing for you, Niall. Don't drop the ball. Whether it's an opportunity that means we're hanging out on Thursday, or just an opportunity that you can reach out.
Yep.
You said, boy, if the door could get open, you said it 6 different ways. You just didn't think there was a chance. The door's open.
Yeah.
So take advantage of that, my brother. That's
Yep.
really,
Okay.
really beautiful
Yes,
stuff.
It is, man.
Thank you for the time.
Yep.
And,
Oh no, man. Thank you.
Okay.
See you.
Take
now.
care.
Yep.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Man, how great is that?
Hey, Christopher.
Huh?
Christopher, email us. We'll exchange numbers. Something. Okay. That's the only way we can
Yep.
get your number, man. Okay. We want to talk to
Yeah.
you.
Yep. I want to hammer that home. Christopher, sober at myyahoo.com. I'm not asking you to type. I'm just asking you to go there and put your number in, brother.
Yep.
Can you know what would happen if I put mine in the comment section?
Ooh.
Right?
That ain't.
And we don't want
that's
you.
not
And we don't
happening.
want you doing that either. As a rule of thumb, we don't do digits in the comment section. It
Yep.
just is a
not a good-
recipe for
no, it is.
disaster.
Yep.
What a beautiful phone call, and what a great.
Really great.
I mean, just yeah, holy mackerel! People, if you're new to the boat, go back and watch the shows that we did with Nile, because the conversation that I think it was the second interview we did with him, because it took a few sections.
So we started talking about it.
Yeah, he started to talk about his kids and walking out on them. It was just really, you talk about owning it. It was really an amazing interview, and to see this come full circle in our time, that is absolutely amazing. That is yeah, man, how cool is that?
Really cool.
And you know
stuff.
what? Yep, I don't. Whatever we were, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
I'm glad that no, it really doesn't. I'm glad that we got as much time on there as we did. We're going to revisit this subject so many times anyway. But what a chance to hear sobriety at work, huh? Life getting better. Nile, I think that the thing that I take away from that Nile really nailed is that a lot of times as addicts, we're the center of our own universe. It's like nothing else outside of us takes place. So while you're there and you're living in this existence where it's all about us and it's all about what's going on with us, and we can't think outside of that. Well, at the same time, there's somebody out there loving him and knowing that he's where he's at and what he's doing, and knowing he's an artist. It's just a beautiful example of the fact that you don't know what's going on. You don't. As an addict, we always would like to believe that we do, but we don't.
Right.
Here this whole time, there are kids out there that aren't hating him, and he was pretty convinced that was going to be the case. A beautiful phone call, Nile. I'm so thankful that you called in, brother, and I'm so thankful that you got through that sober. Yeah, man, that's awesome.
It was
awesome.
That's
Forget about
the kind of organic stuff that hits home, and everybody learns from that and gets so much out of it. It's ridiculous.
Thank God for the call in.
Yeah.
I love the call in. You know what, people, take advantage of it.
Yep.
Dial in here, whenever you're feeling it. Now, Christopher, sober at myyahoo.com. I know you're going to go and put that phone number in right now, right? I know. That's what's going to happen.
That's right.
All righty, everyone. We are going to be back tomorrow night. Mason Scott.
Yep. Puzzle
Hello,
Observer.
Mason Scott. What's that?
Puzzle Observer is new one, and Mason Scott and Puzzle Observer.
Guys who part their hair aspire to be employees. You know what?
You ain't got no hair. What the heck? Where are you going to
no
go?
Issues here. No issues here.
Love it.
Puzzle Observer.
Love it.
No issues here. All righty, everybody. Boy, what a great phone call, man. That really just absolutely touched me.
Mhm.
If that did not touch you the same way that it did me, you need to go and watch the interviews that we did with Nile, because man, what a beautiful
When this posts, guys, I'll go back and I'll add some end cards, and I'll put Nile's videos there.
Great. That would be great. Do the interview ones,
Yeah, I will.
and then they can catch all of them, but the interview ones are
Yep.
that's just yeah, that is awesome. Alrighty, people, we're going to be back tomorrow night, same squirrel time, Same Squirrel channel. If you have not seen Squirrel fly through the air with the greatest of ease, you don't know what you're missing. Alrighty, people. Thank you so much. I sent it to the sober email address. All right, Christopher, hang tight. We'll be on the phone here shortly. I am Captain Tommy Scoville. I'm on the other side of the glass.
Captain Mark Wages.
And that is a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.